Exponential equations, identifying growth factor and initial value. What is the template for an exponential equation? An exponential equation can be written in the form y equals a times b to the power of x, where a represents the initial value and b represents the growth factor. In this video, we'll be exploring exponential equations and identifying what the different parts represent. Problem 1. First, let's identify what's the growth factor for this equation. Notice that here we have our exponent x, and attached to x, the base of the x, number 2 is going to represent our growth factor. So this equation has a growth factor of 2. Here, the number 5 that's being multiplied on the outside is going to represent our initial value. So if we graph this exponential equation, we can see that it will start at 5, and the graph will double as we move along x. Problem 2. Let's first identify what's the growth factor for this equation. Notice that even though these are not in the same order, if we locate our exponent, attached to the exponent is this 1/2. So the growth factor for this is going to be 1/2. The term that's being multiplied, the 6, is going to represent our initial value. Problem 3. What's the growth factor for this equation? Locating our exponent, attached to the exponent is 0.25. So we know that the growth factor for this equation is going to be 0.25. Now let's find the initial value. The number that's being multiplied to the expression, this -4, that's going to represent our initial value, -4. Problem 4. Let's first find the growth factor for this equation. Locating our exponent, the base attached to the exponent, this 1.3, that's going to represent our growth factor. So this has a growth factor of 1.3. Now let's determine what's the initial value. Notice that we don't have a constant that's being multiplied to this expression. So what's the initial value going to be? We know that if we multiply the expression by 1, it's not going to change the value. So this has an initial value of 1. So if we don't have a constant that's being multiplied, we can treat it as being multiplied by 1, because multiplying by 1 doesn't change the value. To summarize, we know that an exponential equation can be written in the form y equals a times b to the x, where a is our initial value and b is our growth factor. We know that the growth factor is going to be the base of the exponent, and our initial value is going to be the constant that's being multiplied.